Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the March 17th regular meeting for the Harrison County Board of Education. At this time, let's stand for the pledge. Mr. Ware, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely. All right. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. All right, we have a little bit of a different order this evening from the agenda standpoint. We're going to start with the superintendent's update.
Sure. I have several things. A couple just orders of business. The school calendar was approved. I'm not sure if we've gotten that out. The state approved our school calendar. I think we're making the pretty one to put on the website, so as soon as that's available, you'll have that. So appreciate Mrs. Knight working on that and the committee to get that done. Also, if you haven't heard, we were given the waiver for the 5 snow days for the week of ice or whatever you wanted to call that. So we were granted the waiver for that, and it actually covered us today, thank goodness. So right now, we would have 3 in a balance if we needed to use any more days, and not add anything at the end of the year. So it's making up for the one, we had 1 over and then today. So we had 5. So we appreciate the State Department for, I think a lot of the counties, I think anybody that applied probably got it, that was a crazy week. That's all I can say with ice and everything, so appreciate the waiver. The other thing you have is, it's green for St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Now it's Christmas colors, right? We got a lot of red here, now we got the green, so we're in good shape. In your packet, the board has a packet, and usually on this agenda we give you the discipline. So here's the discipline for the quarter in that packet. I've also updated your school enrollment numbers, so you can see those for the elementary as of this last week. We've got the elementary numbers and the high school, middle school numbers, because we're launching those all the time, our enrollment numbers. And then also, if you look ahead on the agenda, you'll see that we have attachment of a spending freeze and then plans for staff reductions, and I think Mr. Devano will speak more on that. These are just ideas that we're looking at. So I provided the board with some of those ideas, and I think the board will look at those. One of the things on that list is scheduling, and I think we've got some folks here to speak about that, like our scheduling in our schools to look at. It's a possibility. It's just ideas. So I provided the board with just assessing what that would look like. So you each have a middle school one and a high school one. And after the board looks at that, you will direct me and we can put that out. I don't have a problem with that. It's just ideas we're floating around. Also, there's another sheet in there on savings and it goes along with the sheet that's attached. I've provided you also, there's questions about when you're looking at money or any kind of finances, and I'm sure we'll hear about that here in a little bit. There's different pots of money. So we have a new levy call going into effect this summer, and thank you Harrison County for passing that levy. We appreciate it. It's keeping us moving forward, but I've provided you with the actual copy of that excess levy call, just so you can see it and it'll remind you what all is in there. This money is not touched. It's earmarked for what it's earmarked for, and it'll be used for what's on here for the levy call. And then I've also put in your packet, we've been talking about, I think I sent this to you in an email, about the websites, the accountability and the ADA requirements for our websites. That's all coming in April of 26. And Mr. Oliveri has been working to, he's been in a lot of meetings, working to make sure we're in compliance with all the issues. And we also are going to have to look at board docs. I mean, anything we're putting out, there's some of the things that's difficult. If you're working with any kind of large website or school sites or social media, all has to fall under these guidelines. So this is what was provided to Mr. Oliverio, so I made you a copy of that as well. I think I gave you another one. to look at all that that requires. So that is also in your packet. And I believe that's all I have, other than Mr. Cossig, I believe, has an update on facilities. He's got a lot going on there too, which is a different bottom line, not salaries.
I'm just gonna touch on some good news we've got going for us right now, thanks to the school building authority, and other funding, areas that we have. The Simpson playground, you all know we've got to do some work on that front playground. I think all the funds have been raised. We're waiting on some weather. Of course, we get this last night today, but that project will probably start late spring and early summer. Actually, with the Simpson renovation, we've got some big decorative landscaping blocks that we think we can repurpose and save some money there to extend their wall on the backside of the playground. So that'll be starting very late spring, early summer. I'll put a timeline together for that. RCB, the cafeteria expansion, they started staging there yesterday, putting fencing up to kind of keep people out of that area. Right now, all the students are safe. All the students can evacuate through all the regular exits. There's just a couple entrances that we have closed, and that's okay. It meets code. We have submitted a plan to the state fire marshal. He'll come on site, he'll approve it, we'll make sure that we're okay. Thirdly, we've got the Bridgeport High School project. We're working on a couple changes that we need to make due to some underground utilities that we have in between Bridgeport Middle School and Bridgeport High School, which includes a main sanitary line as well as a 5-foot stormwater line that comes off the hill under Johnson Avenue and then over to our campus. So we've got to take those into consideration. The city's probably not going to let us build over their sanitary line, so that's going to have to be relocated. So it kind of changes our plans a little bit, but we're still working on that. Good news from transportation. We had, week before last, we had 4 sub-bus drivers interviewed. We passed them all through to go through our training program, which is huge when you think about the counties that don't have enough drivers. Other states that don't have enough drivers. And I'm in the process of setting up 3 more interviews for sub-bus drivers coming up, probably in the next week. Those are going to be needed because we have retirements coming at the end of the year, and people call off sick, and the last thing we want to do is to park buses. So that's really good news, makes me feel a lot better. And also with transportation, due to the generosity of the levy, we'll be receiving probably 3 brand new school buses by the end of the term from Bluebird, 1 special needs and 2 regular buses. That's going to be a big help because let me tell you, our buses, you all are from Harrison County, I'm not, I'm from Marion County, but we have the hills and hollows like you all have, and our school buses really take a beating. So the average life of the school bus just goes downhill on some of the roads that we have to travel. So it'll be a nice addition to our fleet when we get those 3 new school buses from Bluebird.
Okay, thank you. I have one thing that, well, I don't even remember what day, I'm not going to try to guess, but I was in a meeting with, and they were a vendor here to work with us on some things, but the one thing that I want to say is during that meeting, they had to visit all of our schools. They made visits around just to work on their proposal for us, which you'll see later, but I wanted to say thank you to our custodians and the folks in our schools because it was unsolicited. At the end of that meeting, they said we've worked in counties all over the state and they've never seen buildings as clean and as well kept as in Harrison County. And we can only thank our employees for that because, and I have visited other schools that are not quite as clean, but just to be unsolicited at the end of the meeting, this gentleman, I don't really even know him, I just met him that day, and for him to say that, I just can't say enough for the things that our custodians and our folks do in the school building every day to keep them nice, and that falls under.
And you know, Dora, I went and visited some custodians yesterday afternoon shift, and when I walked in and found them, they were all perspiring pretty good, so I know they were working hard. And that goes to a good work ethic for a lot of our employees throughout.
So it's always nice to hear something that you're not expecting, and we don't say it enough. So thank you to everybody there. And then also, I want to thank you all for coming. I know that we've got some conversations these are conversations early on. We're looking at lots of different things. And it's going to take, I told our principals last week, sitting in the room, it's going to take everybody in this county to make things work and to get us where we need to be. We're not the same as we were in 2016, I can tell you, because of all the different things happening with public schools. You can blame it on whatever you want to blame it on, but I've said this before, numbers don't lie. And they tell us directions we need to go, whether we like to do it or not. And we're going to be looking at things moving forward, and it will take everybody. It's going to take everybody willing to give a little, take a little, move a little, and not do things as we've always done things. I mean, that's where we are. I've witnessed it currently in my job, and I was a school administrator, and things are just different. The funding, it's just different. I don't even know how to say that any clearer. It's not the same. The money coming in has got to at least equal what we're spending. And when that doesn't happen, then we've got to look at it hard. So that's where we are. So we appreciate everybody coming, and it's going to take us a lot of time to work through things and to get where we need to be. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. So that's all I have.
Okay. Next, we'll go down to consent items. Is there a motion to approve consent items as presented by the superintendent?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. New business, schedule of fiscal year 2027 proposed levy rates, discussion and approval. Is there a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026-27 levy rates?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Somebody explain.
I was going to ask that somebody kind of go over this so that we all.
So the current levy rates are established by the state legislature. So we use the property values assessed.
Give her a mic. We can't hear her back here.
She doesn't have a mic, but
You can go to the podium.
okay.
Please.
So on March 3rd of every year, the county assessor gives us the assessed property valuations. And we use that number and we apply it for our levy rates. The current levy rates are established by the state legislature and code. So those are set. So we take the assessed property values, multiply by those rates, and we get money for the general fund. So this year, we're supposed to be raising, after delinquencies and discounts and exonerations and the TIF district, we'll be raising $28.6 million. Of that, the state takes about 85% of that. Sorry, Ryan. And reduces our state aid. So we only get to keep, I know it looks like a lot of money, but we only get to keep 15% for operations roughly. The next portion of that is the excess levy. This is the new levy call, which the board requested that we put in a 7.5% reduction on the levy rates. So the new rates are what was voted on by the taxpayers in November of 2024 during the regular general election. So this is the reduction. We have less money being collected for the levy than what the levy call had suggested, due to the fact that decrease in assessed property valuations, mostly due to oil and gas. It's expected that they may come up, but we don't know. But whenever I did my projections earlier in the year, when we were talking about personnel, I used the numbers that I'd gotten from the state, from what they were using to put in their budget requests. And unfortunately, the assessed property values have come in lower yet. So we are not quite getting enough money, what we originally expected to get for personnel. It's down about another $300,000, about 5 positions, I think it was. So basically what we do is we look at this, you give me approval to send it on to the state state auditor's office and get it published. And then this portion of the meeting lays open until the third Tuesday in April.
So, you have here listed change in the final assessed values, the assessed value and the estimated levy tax.
Yes,
Final certificate of valuation, that's coming from the assessor's office, correct?
yes, sir.
And it's 5 million.
That's 5 billion.
5 billion. Of that 5 billion, estimated levy taxes, that we collect is 31 million.
31.1.
Mr. Vaughn. Question.
Yes.
I think just so everybody will understand, the 85%, like when you said, goes back to the state.
It doesn't go to the state, actually, they reduce our state aid.
There
Yes.
you go, okay. So we're actually getting that back, right? They're not, I
We
mean-
get it, say our state aid is $1,000, and they use 85% to reduce it, because I'm using smaller numbers. They use 85% of this, so now we are going to get maybe $900 instead of $1,000, because they use the state general levy to reduce what the state provides for us. And it's step 9, I think, or 10, as a 9 of the public school funding point. Now, the excess levy, none of that goes to the state whatsoever. That's spent according to the levy column.
Just so everybody
Yes.
understands that.
Any other questions, discussions? So at this point in time, motion has been made, second has been made. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, brings us to Liberty Middle Safe School Entrance Project, change order. Is there a motion to approve Huffman Corporation change order number 1 in the amount of $31,000.15 for additional electrical work, fire alarms, for safe school entrance, security at Liberty Middle School as presented by the superintendent, bringing the total project cost to $561,019.15. Have that in front of you.
I so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
This was SCA money for school.
There were 2 bids that were received, is what it says here. Do we have the bid sheet?
34,000 we saved last meeting.
Put it on here?
Yeah, we just spent 31,000 there, so.
Yeah, this was for Huffman when they're completing that work there on security.
Which looks very good. I was there the other day. It's a nice system there.
And they really had difficulty because of the age of the building and the new equipment, tying that in, right, with the fire alarms. That's what the expense was. And the parts.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Out-of-state travel study request. Attached are the out-of-state travel study request as presented by the superintendent. For a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
And there is 3 chaperones listed. With that number of kids, 50 kids, I would think that if it's possible, that maybe one of the administrators also accompany those chaperones on the trip, just to have an administrator present in case, any situations would occur. We'd have an administrator there that, would have first-hand knowledge.
Yeah, we can check on that. I know it's a senior trip, so we need to check. They may not have them all listed. I think this just might be the staff. Sometimes parents are invited, so I'll find that out for you. There could be other chaperones, it's just not listed on that.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
But I think, I just thought one school administrator if possible.
okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hope. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, brings us down to the Hope Pathway, the local CTE concentration proposal. In front of you, there is a motion to approve the Hope Pathway. The proposal is to be located at Robert C. Byrd High School in the fall of 2026. You have the information in front of you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? I think that this is a very positive program. And I think that if this can gain some legs, that we might see it grow quite a bit. So I'm very happy that this is here.
Yeah, and it sounded like they had a pretty good interest.
Yes, yes. They have a lot.
Good. Very good. We're glad to hear that. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Old business. So before we get into our old business, which is what everybody's here for this evening, I would like to make a comment. Nothing that you are thinking or that is here in this agenda tonight is happening right now. We have continued to go along with the plan that we started with. Now, Ms. Kynes, she did a good job in putting our numbers together, but I think at the end of the day, we have to be responsible for what we do going forward as a board, all right? And as a board, it's our responsibility to, number one, be fiscally responsible, fiscally sound. And that is one of our three main goals as a board. It is not my intention, and I can speak for the rest of the board, it is not their intention that if we can avoid going through any of this, we will. But there are some things that need to happen, and what we are going to do is take the time to really look at it and really put it into perspective. What we need to do and what we can do in order to save as many jobs as possible. That's my goal, 100%, okay? And if it means that, we have to adjust the time, I know that doesn't sound very attractive, but if it saves 50 jobs, that's where Dora was talking about earlier. There's going to be some give and take, all right? But we don't know that yet. That's the overall point I'm trying to make. We don't know that yet. And we've got a few months to dig into this to kind of figure out what we're going to do first. So that being said, we'll take up the spending freeze. Now, you have in front of you a recommendation to implement a non-essential spending freeze through June 30th, 2027, or until such time as it is lifted with the formal board action as presented by the superintendent. That's in front of you, and as everyone is aware, there is a list of items here. So to get it on the floor, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. It's on the floor for discussion. First off, there are a lot of ideas on here, and I'll simply leave them as ideas. But could you give us a little bit of an idea as to non-essential, what you're thinking for non-essential? One of the things that I think is important to address is what we're classifying as different pots of money, like we've already discussed earlier. So when it comes down to non-essential expenditures, what exactly are we looking at?
Sure. If you look at the initial thing that is on the attachment for everybody to see, and that's, I said this earlier, the initial part of that is what's not impacted, and that is school levy allocations. So just keep that in mind, and that was what was on your sheet, our school levy allocations. What we are looking at are things like, one of the first ones on there is vehicle purchases. Do we need vehicles? Do we need new vehicles? Can we use the ones that we have? They're expensive. And Mr. Cossey I think he's evaluating our fleet now and looking at that. So, I mean, there's just things like that. It's not really essential, but if we need it, and our employees need it, they will have a good vehicle to drive. Equipment purchases, we're looking at unneeded overtime. Sometimes overtime, we may not need it. We might be able to do it with 2 people instead of 4 people, right? I mean, we've got to really look at that. Now we're just kind of signing off on overtime, and it's really gotten a little more than what I used to be in a school. We weren't allowed to even have overtime, so I don't know how it's gotten here, but we've got to clean that up. That was one of them. Only using subs where we have to. County office, for example, if we don't need subs in our secretary positions, we're not going to call one. It's hard to do that in a school. If your school office needs a secretary, you need a secretary. There's some positions in schools that maybe you don't need a sub that day. I'm thinking of like title and different jobs like that. Maybe, so we got to get our sub costs down. We're looking at all of our licenses, software licenses across the county. Big number. I mean, there's a lot of money we spend, and a lot of times we'll buy 100 when we only need 50. So that's the things we're looking at, what do you actually need? We just went through this with testing coming up. We've always just bought headphones for every student. Well, we've got schools that's got buckets of them, so why do we do that? I don't know, because we've just always done that. So now they're sending to Todd, what do we need? And some of them are purchasing those out of levy funds, the school money that they already have. So there's just lots of things that will add up to a bigger number. And so we're looking at really everything as far as that goes. Travel, so most of the things are listed on there. I'm sure there's other things that as we sit down, even up here as a curriculum, that we just won't buy. I mean, when you adopt a textbook, you can do as they say, the Cadillac version, and trust me, they will sell you everything under the sun. But if the teacher's only using the textbook and the consumable and maybe the online text, why are we buying all of the extra things? But Harrison County, we've been very generous. We've been fortunate with the levy, and we've been able to buy the Cadillac. We've been able to buy it all, and if you used it, you did, and if you didn't, but that's the things we're looking at. There's no purpose for that. We're trying to get back to using what we need and not affecting the students and what their instructional supplies are. So we're looking at everything that comes through to us on a purchase order. You know, something that we might have spent $30,000 on, you can probably do it. We're going back and actually looking at the actual POs. And last year we only spent $10,000. Well, why did we budget $35,000? That's what we're looking at. Everything that's got a dollar amount on it. So.
Thank you. And I'd like to make the point that number one, this is going to take some time to go through. It's not going to be a decision tonight that says, hey, this is all set in stone for next year. We're going to have to dig into this and look at it, all right? And I mean, with the spending freeze that's being recommended tonight, we'll have to look at that and decide whether we want to accept this or whether we want to look at other things. But I think this list right here is a good start. But again, this is a process. It's going to take some time. We're going to have to, like I said, dig in and do the work as a board for everybody here. So, is there any other topics of discussion on the spending freeze? Any other questions?
This list was generated really with finance sitting down in a group, because they see the money coming in and going out.
Mm-hmm.
The accounts payable folks and purchasing see it.
Yeah.
And if the other things like major projects or anything like that, I don't think we need to get into anything else that hasn't been planned yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we shouldn't be considering anything that hasn't already been started.
You're talking about capital?
I don't know,
Capital
but just,
improvements?
yeah, like anything that hasn't actually been started, we shouldn't think about going into anything else.
Well, I think we've got some SBA money that hasn't been
Right.
started
That-
yet.
Well, I
that's
mean,
where I'm
but
talking
those have
about
already been
started.
planned,
Right.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But I don't think we should be thinking ahead of that.
No. I understand what you're saying. I do. Yeah, I mean, if we can't afford to do it, we shouldn't do it,
Right.
bottom line. So I think,
I
Ms.
think,
Stein?
yeah, I think the projects that we went after, I think that's where the confusion is. That money can't, I could just stop all those projects right now and it's not gonna cover salaries. I can't use it for salaries.
Right.
So we can stop all those projects, or even moving forward, you still gotta do your building maintenance and your projects. But if it's something that would be coming out of general fund, which we don't do that, so we stopped that practice already. If I go to the SBA and get money and there's a match, it's coming out of our capital improvement fund. That can only, like I said, I can't use that for salaries anyway. So that would be up to you all. I mean, but the projects we have are paid for out of other funds. It's not taking away from employee salaries.
And reiterate the fact that the levy is 100% Harrison County's. I know there were some questions that I'd spoken to some people about extracurricular contracts. So if there are questions about the levy, then I think we should address that later, because the levy is Harrison County's levy. It's something that we need to uphold 100%.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, if the levy says you spend this, you spend
That's right.
that,
That's right.
that's a non-negotiable.
Yeah. There was, I guess, we talked about contracted services. A question, when it comes down to contracted services, what exactly, I know that was a little bit vague in the levy. So how is that going to work if we had used contracted services in the past?
Mr. Coffey's already started where he's looking at, he started having the maintenance guys rebuild the engines instead of contracting.
Mhm.
And those kind of things that they can do. They've already started doing that.
So what
You
about,
can elaborate some more on that.
So you mean more in-house?
More in-house, yeah.
Right.
We have the mechanics, we have the knowledge, we have, just doing it in-house instead of paying someone else to do it.
what about things that are not, that our maintenance people can't do? Is that still going to be considered?
But that's a decision we make, if they can't do it, it needs to be done, we will have to contract that service out. An example of that would be, some really high voltage switchgear that may need to be changed out. We have electricians, but they're really not familiar with that type of voltage, when switching out the really large switchgear, the panels that may need to, could go bad, they could catch on fire, that would be something that we could contract out. And other, as people leave, and it's hard to recruit certain types of tradespeople, such as HVAC technicians, that's something we have to look at hard in order to extend the life of what we have, so we don't have millions and millions coming out all of a sudden that we need to replace. So there's a lot of different aspects to that we need to look at. And I know Harrison County, talking to a lot of the maintenance folks, is that they've always taken pride in being able to do most of the stuff that they do here in-house. But when, WI is closed, Northeast closed, Norwood's closed, we can't keep operating at the same level of maintenance that we were back in those days when all those schools still open. We've got to start swinging it down. And right now we do it for attrition. If somebody retires, we would seriously consider whether we do it or not.
Mr. Long,
Yes, sir.
we also have to remember, when you said this closed, this one's closed, this one closed, the new Lincoln High School and the new Robert C. Byrd, they're much older now. So before we had 52 or 56 maintenance folks. Now we're down to about 22, isn't it? So, we can't be dipping too far into that, not at all. These buildings that replace some of these other ones are larger also and require more maintenance, so we can't be doing that. That's my take on that. Not that it has anything to do with what you just said, I'm just telling you, we can't be doing that.
Is there any other discussion, any other points of interest, topics? Motions on the floor to accept the spending freeze. Again, we will do the work to dig into what needs to be done so that we can find the perfect plan, not perfect, the best plan forward, best plan forward. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Plans for staff reductions for the 27 to 28 school year. Now, this is sorry. Is there a motion to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. The way this is presented, to me, is a little awkward. As it says, plans for staff reductions for 27 and 28. We have not decided anything yet on that. So I know we are continuing with what we've been doing through the attrition and through the retirements. But in order to have a plan, like I said earlier, I think it's going to take a little bit of time to dig into it. But I think that what you have here, so that everybody's aware of it, are just topics, right? There's no, yeah, they're just ideas. There's no specific transfer, there's no specific RIF, there's no specific positions. These are just ideas.
So far, I think the only two plans on there is the continuation of the positions through attrition and the spending freeze that we just passed. So I think those are the only two plans that we have in place at this point, correct?
Correct, yes. The rest is going to take the work that we talked about. So I don't feel it's appropriate to vote on the ideas tonight. I think that as we move forward, that we should come up with a nice plan. But these ideas are something we should consider. But without having any hard data, I don't know what ideas we're voting on, right? So the ideas are here in front of us, but we don't have any meat and potatoes behind the ideas. And it could change.
And these are all things that would come to fruition with next personnel season.
Right.
Like if you did any of these things,
Mhm.
then it's going to be at the next personnel season.
Right.
So whether it's a transfer or letter, reduction of extracurricular, whatever.
Right.
That's what we're going to see in all, but it's going to take time to work on those together. These were just ideas that were,
Right.
you know,
These
things
are
that we
ideas
knew
presented.
that could make a difference.
And
And
I
there
agree.
are some hard numbers here for you to look at on some of them. Just preliminarily, just looking at it at face value, there's ways you can save. So you have that.
Yes. And that's going to take some time to evaluate.
Yes.
And that's where I'm thinking that voting on these ideas doesn't make a whole lot of sense
It was
to me.
really on there, I think, last time for information and now discussion. So, I mean, it could still be that.
And it's important we remember that we leave classrooms last, that student services are the last thing we cut, whether that's personnel or programs or services.
Yeah, so I think at this point in time,
We need a motion to table.
no, it's already been tabled.
Okay.
Yeah, we should just,
It'll just fall
Just
off.
let it die.
It'll die, and then we'll have to bring it back
or we could
up.
vote it down, but that's not going to do
I
anything.
mean, this was published, so everybody
Right.
sees what we're looking at. I think that's the important part, just
Right.
being transparent
being
on
transparent.
ideas.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And we're open to your ideas too.
All right, so we'll rescind that motion. Who made the motion? We rescind it?
I rescind
Just
my
to be
motion.
clean. All right. Thank you. All right, next this brings us down to personnel matters. In front of you, the personnel agenda. Is there a motion to approve personnel matters as presented by the superintendent? Is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, special recognitions and presentations. We have Mr. Cummings here, West Virginia Department of Education, to present for us on finance and accountability.
Thanks, sir. Superintendent Stutler, President Devano, members of the board, I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you this afternoon. I've certainly heard about the discussion that you all have been having regarding personnel matters and the fiscal responsibility of the board, and I appreciate that. Today, I intend to just kind of speak to you all as a board regarding really this ideology that we've been bringing about from the department level as it regards to fiscal responsibility of the boards and some of the metrics that play into the finances of the board, because as we'll see here in a second, finances are dependent on different variables, some of which have been declining across the state over the years. So we refer to this specific presentation as a consolidated approach to school finance. We have it up on the screen so everybody can see it, and we can all just go through it together and get an idea for how it is that the finances rely so much on different variables. If you would advance the slide, please. So just overall, I want to speak to an important budgetary concept before I get too far down the road here, and that's the fact that from the get-go, about 80 to 85% of a county board's budget is made up of personnel costs. So what that means is that there is only about 15% or so of the pie left over for all the different other areas that we have. We've talked about transportation this afternoon, facilities. Those are all left over after we've taken care of the personnel costs of the county. So just wanted to put that into perspective for everybody, just to give an idea. As Ms. Kynes and her office start the budgetary preparation process to be able to present to the board just an understanding of the fact that a majority of that budget is going to be made up of personnel costs from the outset. I'm going to grab my water real quick, sorry. So again, just being able to understand the relationship that exists here between finance and personnel, I think is extremely important for everybody to understand. If you would advance the slide, please. And one more. Again, part of this ideology that we've been pushing from the department starts with identifying all the different factions that come to the various decisions that the board ends up acting upon. So first and foremost is the CSBO of the county, also known as the treasurer of the county. And just a high-level overview of what this slide is saying. In my opinion, I think the CSBO is the most critical aspect of the decision-making factor because they're the ones essentially informing the superintendent of the financial standpoint of the board, and ultimately what funding sources are available to be able to spend for the various expenditures that the county board takes on. I throw a little analogy in there at the end. It'd be like jumping in an airplane without knowing how much gas is in the tank. Nobody in here would want to do that, right? So same goes from a spending perspective. When we're talking $100 million budget of Harrison County Schools, we would want to know exactly where those finances are and exactly the different pots of money that make up the revenue aspect of our budget. Next slide, please. Next up is the superintendent. So superintendent and herself, she's relying on her staff to bring to her various data points to then make an internal decision or plan to bring to you all to act upon. So again, a great superintendent will rely on her staff to be able to, again, say, hey, this is how much we've got. This is what we can do. This is what happens if we don't do this, those types of things. And again, she'll develop a plan to bring to you all as a board to then be able to act upon. As boards, you all are the most influential piece of the puzzle because it's very difficult to be board members in this state, and I hope nobody in this room takes that lightly, because there is a political aspect to it ultimately. You rely on the citizens of this county to put you in the position that you're in to make the best decisions possible for students, right? Because at the end of the day, every single one of us in this room are here for the kids of Harrison County Schools. So at the end of the day, I do not envy you all as board members to have to make difficult decisions that impact people's lives and impacts children's lives at the end of the day. But again, it's up to you all to take the plan that's brought to you from the superintendent and ask questions. It's not a fact that you're going to get a plan brought to you all and it's 100% fact something that you're going to approve and move forward with. Because that would be irresponsible, right? At the end of the day, as a board, it's up to you all to ask questions and to say, hey, I get the plan. Tell me how we get there. Show me how we get there. Where's the data? That's the responsibility of the board. And I hope that I hope all those pieces kind of come together. But there is one more piece, if you would. That's the other local administrators that we employ here in the county, and I think Superintendent Stutler spoke to this a little bit already, where you go to your school principals and you go to your directors in the county and you say, hey, where can we stand to reduce costs, right? Where can we stand to potentially cut a classroom here, or cut a secretary there, or an administrator at a school level? All those questions and comments from those in the school level are very, very important, because Superintendent Stutler is not the one that sees the engagement with the students on a day-to-day basis, and maybe she doesn't know that this English class has really helped out students over the years. We can't stand to cut that class because it's going to really impact our school, at the end of the day. So those are the conversations that have to be had with those at the local level, even beyond the high-level conversations that have to take place at the central office. Next slide, please. So I want to speak to some of what Ms. Kynes had initially spoke to during some of her comments during the the levy rate conversation, and that's the state aid impact on personnel. Next slide, please. So the majority of the funding that you all receive here at the county level is known as the Public School Support Plan. That's the state aid funding that you receive. It's set forth in West Virginia Code 18-9A, and again is beyond property taxes the biggest sum of funds that the county uses to operate. Next slide, please. Just an overview of the formula in itself. I'm not going to get into the weeds because it's not something that probably is worthwhile, but I do want to speak specifically to the fact that personnel makes up a majority of the state aid that you all receive as a county, or funding for personnel makes up a majority of that. Those are steps 1, 2, and 5 of the formula, plus additional fixed charges for those employees that are funded through the formula, as well as retirement and health insurance proceeds for those individuals as well, and the employer share of those. But you can see here just the 10-step process is what it's referred to as, is essentially what the legislature has determined, hey, this is what you all need to operate as a school system. And then if you would go to the next slide, please. As Ms. Kynes alluded to, then they say, hey, County Board of Education, it's up to you to put forth your fair share towards funding this the education of students in your county, because you are a levying body in that county. So as she referred to at the regular levy, 85% of those funds do go towards funding the 10-step process. We reduce the step 8, which is the total basic foundation allowance, by those tax collections to give us the total state aid allowance under state aid funding formula for the counties. Next slide, please. Some data that's used in the calculation, and this is really what I want to hit home here today, is the fact that the top two bullets that are bolded, the fact that student enrollment is one of the main data points within the funding formula that drives the majority of this funding. And second being the certified list of personnel data, which is essentially a collection that we take. Both of these collections take place once a year on October 1st. The certified list of personnel is essentially all the employees that are employed, full-time employees, as of October 1st, and the positions that they're employed in, as well as the year's experience and degree level of those employees. And I'll tell you how that kind of fits all together here in a little bit. Next slide, please. So just some specifics on enrollment. We start with a head count enrollment, but then reduce it down to a full-time equivalency basis. So it's not just a one-to-one basis. Typically, it's just only pre-K kids that don't necessarily attend a full day of enrollment. It's based upon the instructional hour requirements that are in state code, that actually just state code, that just actually there was a bill passed to reduce those recently, as long as the governor signs it. Again, we're looking at that on an FTE basis with then adjustments made for certified adults if we offer those here at the Career Center, as well as the next year won't really pertain, but then we lump in public charter school students into the county's enrollment for students that physically reside in Harrison County but attend public charter schools, which we do have one charter school that actually is physically located in the county, so that has impacted the enrollment numbers for Harrison County schools here over the past few years. Next slide, please. All right, so I'm just going to look specifically at the personnel steps of the funding formula so that you can kind of see how personnel numbers are generated and maybe get an idea of how those have been impacted over the past couple of years. So next slide, please. So you can see here that county boards of education receive a certain number of personnel, or funding for a certain number of personnel based on 1,000 students. So for every 1,000 students, county boards of education, I'll use Harrison County's number specifically, being a high-density county, receive funding for 72.30 professional educators per 1,000 students. Professional educators consist of all instructional professionals in the county. So that would mean superintendent, instructional directors, principals, as well as the teachers within this county. All fit into that grouping. So you're receiving funding, again, to employ about 72.30 per 1,000 students. Next slide, please. The number or the level of funding that you're receiving per each of those personnel is driven again by that certified list of personnel that I spoke about earlier, where we're developing a base level salary as well as the state supplement, combining those together to compute a county average in which we're multiplying it by the number of positions funded. So keep in mind that that does not include any county supplement that you all have passed over the years to provide an additional supplement above the minimum required in state code. Next slide, please. Some further considerations that aren't accounted for in the state aid funding formula. I already spoke about the fact that the county supplement's not funded. Locally funded positions are not included as a part of the number of positions funded. So, for example, the treasurer position, although it is set forth in state code that each county board employ a treasurer, that is not a funded position of the county. Other professional positions that are non-funded would be any non-instructional directors, such as transportation maintenance director, child nutrition director. There are several other positions that fall under that category. Physical therapists, anybody that's not instructing a student, essentially, that the county is employing, that we still need, right, to operate as a school system, but we're not being funded for those positions. Just keep in mind as well the numbers that we'll look at here shortly. Any state or federally grant-funded positions not included when we're talking about the number of positions employed over or under formula. We don't pick up any independently contracted services. So as a county, if you all contract for speech language pathologists or any of these other positions, we have to look at those separately, and they're not included in in these figures. And also, just a reminder that ESSER funds are gone. So as a county, here in Harrison County, I'm not sure specifically if there were positions that were funded under ESSER funds, but across the state, there were thousands of positions that were placed on the ESSER funds that ultimately, once those funds went away, counties had to make difficult decisions because it kind of almost masked, if you will, the cliff that was coming. During that period of time since COVID came about, across the state we've lost thousands and thousands of kids. Just since last year, as a state, we lost over 6,000 students. As a county, we lost over 400 students in Harrison County schools. So again, this kind of shifting positions, while it was great to be able to do that from just a budgetary perspective, getting everybody back on board with the fact that those funds are gone away, and we held tight to certain staffing levels, but because of that, it's been difficult to overcome. So I wanted to just touch on that as well. Next slide, please. One other aspect of this is the fact that the funding formula doesn't look at the extended contracts for employees on the professional side of things. So, for example, if we have 261-day contracts in Harrison County, which we do across the state, you're only funded for the 200 days of that contract, not the entirety of the 261 days of the contract. Further, you're only funded again at the state minimum salaries or state minimum funded salaries. So principal salary supplements or any director salary supplements that you provide your directors are not included in that as well, and it's something that you're having to take on local funds. Next slide, please. So I think I missed a slide here, but ultimately, you can break it down to a very basic formula. And it's, I was a math geek whenever I was growing up. So A times B equals C, we've all kind of heard that, right? With A being the number of positions funded under the formula, B being the average state funded salary that we're receiving per position, multiply those together, and that's the level of funding that you're receiving under each step of the formula. Step 2. Service personnel. So service personnel are non-exempt employees from a Fair Labor Standards Act perspective. These are our these are our bus drivers, our custodians, those folks that fall under the service personnel group. We can see here that in Harrison County we're receiving about 53.79 positions per 1,000 students. Under this grouping. Again, we're looking at it on a ratio basis. That's how the formula is set up, and that's how we're funded per 1,000 students. Next slide, please. Again, we're looking at this A times B equals C formula, with A again being the level of positions funded, B being this average state minimum funded salary for service personnel. So for service personnel, actually in state code, it sets forth a pay grade for each of these individuals based on the position that they're employed in. So again, we look at years of experience based on the certified list of personnel every October 1st, and take into consideration years experience and pay grade for a level for each of these individuals to develop this minimum state funded salary for service personnel. And I should stop myself here for a second because I forgot to mention the fact that this is on a 1-year lag. So as of October 1st, 2025, fiscal year in 26, the staffing levels and the enrollment counts impact funding for FY 27. So I want to make sure it's very clear, and I apologize for missing that early on. Next slide, please. For service personnel, these certain position group is funded for the entirety of the extended contract if you were to employ a custodian for 261 days or whatever the case may be. It's kind of difficult to think about because at the end of the day, no matter what, you're funded for the level of positions that your enrollment says you're funded for. But from a comparative perspective, when you're looking at how many positions over or under formula you are, those extended contract days are included in that count. So it's not hidden, if you will, similar to like what the professional numbers are. Next slide. For The final personnel grouping that we'll talk about this afternoon, step 5 is the funding for professional student support personnel. Again, ratio basis here only, there's not this sparsity change among the different groups that we fall within at the county level. It's just 5 positions per 1,000 students across the board. Student support personnel are made up of counselors, nurses, social workers, social and emotional support specialists. This is all a change that came through House Bill 206 during the 2019 special legislative session, where the legislature put a significant fiscal effort into providing additional funds to county boards of education to be able to support students from an emotional and social and emotional perspective, if you will. Next slide, please. So again, all of those things kind of come together and make up the level of funding that we're receiving for personnel at the county level. And again, as we've seen, and I've tried to drive home the fact that, again, a lot of that's determined by our enrollment counts. And again, across the state and across this county, we've continued to lose enrollment at an expedited rate, for lack of a better way of saying it. Just want to just look at a couple more slides just to kind of depict how some of these things, if action's not taken, may ultimately impact a school district's fund balance, which is the level essentially of unrestricted assets available to the board for decision-making purposes. Next slide, please. So again, as I just kind of alluded to, is the fact that we have what's referred to in finance as a fund balance, which is the level of assets over liabilities, how much we have on hand versus how much we owe other people, ultimately is a generic way of putting a fund balance into perspective. With the unrestricted fund balance being, we don't have restrictions on these funds similar to the excess levy, having restrictions that have been set forth in the call that have to be spent for a specific purpose. These would be funds that have no restrictions whatsoever, and you all as a board could vote to say, hey, you know what, we got a roof project and we need to get done. We're going to put forth these funds for those purposes. As a department, we recommend that we require that those fund balances be at least 5% of the general revenue that you would receive on an annual basis. But we also follow the Government Finance Officer Association recommendation of keeping at least 2 months on hand in reserve balances in case of emergencies or anything like that, which ultimately equates to about a 16.7% fund balance percentage. An easy example is if our fund balance at fiscal year end 25 is 20 million, which Harrison County was about 23, but I'm going to use round numbers. And our total revenue for the general fund for the year is $100 million, then our fund balance percentage would be 20%, just to put it in layman's terms for you, please. Next slide. So let's look at some factors that ultimately lead to that fund balance percentage that I just detailed there, a decline in those balances. Next slide, please. So if we, as a county, have a decrease in enrollment year over year without making any sort of corresponding reduction in the number of employees, we're going to see that fund balance percentage decline. If we are employing at well above what the formula provides, which again, we've already talked about the fact that's hand in hand with the decrease in enrollment, without having an alternative funding source like the excess levy to cover those personnel costs, and again, we're going to see that fund balance decline. If we overspend on construction projects, next slide. If we have excessive number of extended contracts, so I think, you know, when we're talking about or having conversations about a plan, those are items that can be looked at in lieu of a reduction in force, being able to reduce maybe excess extended contract days as an alternative option. Obviously, for providing more services than we're required to do, we see this more so in special education, which is where counties really struggle to maintain certain funding levels because you know, our special, it's unique to see in the state of West Virginia, but our special education population actually continues to grow while the rest of our enrollment population declines. So what that means is the cost of educating a student in West Virginia continually increases because, again, our total aggregate enrollment base is being more saturated with special education students, which are more costly. In turn, there are additional services that have to be provided to those students. So we have to be very efficient in the services that we're provided. And if we're being inefficient in those services, then that could lead to a decline in our fund balance. Next slide, please. Obviously, if we're just spending more money than we're bringing in, we're gonna see a reduction in our fund balance. We do have an excess levy in Harrison County, so that's fantastic, as we had suggested earlier. If there are just major spending taking place in the county without any sort of approval taking place, and that's going to be problematic and could lead to a deficit. And then if we're operating more schools than what is absolutely necessary, then that's really the final straw, if you will. We don't like to throw around the word consolidation, but across the state we've been seeing more consolidation efforts than ever before, again, due to declining population and the fiscal impact of that. Next slide, please. And then just some key dates as it pertains to personnel to consider along the way. Next slide. So every November, we release these staffing pages that I'm going to pull up as a PDF here in a second, just to kind of go through the numbers broadly. And that's really when personnel decision-making processes start across the state, because that's when we know what the enrollment levels are, and we know that what those enrollment levels are driving in terms of a funded personnel population. By April 1st of every year, the county is required to inform in writing of any sort of transfer or situation like that must take place. And by May 1st, all RIFs must be board approved, and all hearings for those reductions in force have to have taken place as well. So those are just some key dates that happen every single year from a personnel deadline perspective that exist in state code. Any specific questions on that aspect of conversation?
So, is there, you talked about the fund balance. Can you explain a little bit more of that?
Sure, absolutely. So the fund balance in itself, again, is made up of essentially the assets. It's a point in time as of a fiscal year end collection of the assets, essentially on hand to the board at fiscal year end 25, for example, which is the most recently closed fiscal year, in comparison to liabilities that the county has at that fiscal year end as well. So when we talk assets, we're talking cash equivalents, investment accounts and earnings under those investments, other things like that may exist within the general fund of the county, with the liabilities being the payables. We have deferred pays to our employees that take place in July and August. There are PEIA payables, insurance payables that exist at fiscal year end. Those are essentially the outstanding items that we have to pay to vendors or to individuals that we are due as a county obligated to pay those bills with the funds available. So the difference between those two, ultimately, in a business sense, we would think of that as equity, right? Well, fund balance is essentially the equity of our school district, and that's how it's presented.
So the percentage is the 16%, the recommended 16.7%. That's what you, as a state, recommend us to have, plus the two operating.
So those are one and the same. So essentially the 16.7% is equal. If you do 2 divided by 12, or 1/6 is 16.7%.
But, okay. So, I guess, if you drop below that 16.7%, what happens then?
Nothing immediately. We do have an accountability system across the state you all are probably familiar with. We have a finance-specific indicator under that where there's a point structure based on, the different areas, budgeting and financial statement preparation and all these different areas of finance that exist. One of those indicators is the fund balance level of the school district. So there is a point reduction under the accountability measure for not meeting that 16.7% threshold. However, once a school district falls under 5%, they're labeled as a watch list county or financially distressed, as it's also referred to in state code.
Thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? No? Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Just a couple more, if you don't mind. I just have some PDFs of just some raw data for you all to take into consideration as well, specific to the county. So with the first being just a financial outlook, a 5-year picture essentially of where Harrison County Schools has come over the past, again, 5 years or so. So the fund balance in itself has fluctuated over the past 5 years, sitting again right around $23 million right now, and with just little growth over the past, or between 24 and 25. With some substantial actually increases in excess levy dollar collections. Again, Ms. Kynes had spoke about the fact that oil and gas property evaluations gave the county additional revenues in FY25, and those have dipped again in 26. So, those are some challenges that the county faces. We're talking $13 million difference right there in local revenues alone. And it's all, oil and gas industry is very volatile, so it's going to be difficult to predict how those are going to change over the next few years, which ultimately impact your staffing levels at the end of that. We do have some information there. On the excess levy, as Ms. Kynes alluded to, once 27 numbers are put into this, we will see a reduction in the level of revenues that are generated under the excess levy. Next slide, please. Here we have depicted, and we put this together for every county. This is not something, this is something we generate annually. We provide them to every county. So, I didn't reinvent the wheel or anything specifically for this presentation. I just wanted everybody to kind of see the numbers that we're speaking to today. So as it pertains to fiscal year in 26, the year in which we are currently working within, Harrison County Schools was operating at 133-ish positions over formula as compared to the level of positions funded under a state aid funding formula. They also employed about 20, and that's professional only. Also employed just shy of 30 positions of locally funded positions that they don't receive funding for under the formula, to give a total level of professional positions funded, employed that in which they're not receiving funding of about 161 positions on the professional side. That's again the professional education, student support personnel. On the service side of things, the level is right around 78 positions in which the county was paying for out of local funds. Total positions being 239 positions in this county. Next slide, or one more page down, please. So we want to put that into dollar perspective. So you can see here, about $13 million of local funds were having to be put towards paying for these additional positions over formula in Harrison County. As well as $4 million for service personnel, with a total meeting about $17 million, or $17.5 million there. What this doesn't consider, again, are some of these items that I spoke to earlier, extended contract days for professionals, the county supplement that the county is having to take on. All of these items that I'd referenced, those are not included in that $17.5 million. So we'll pull up an Excel spreadsheet here in a second and kind of look at more real numbers. That just kind of gives you a high-level overview just from a funding level perspective of where we fall. I want to just specifically talk to this enrollment number just for everybody in the public to see. Over a 5-year period, about 1,100 student decline in Harrison County, which is, you know, it's heartbreaking to see, unfortunately. But, you know, if we look at that 1,000 student ratio conversation that we had brought up during the state aid funding formula portion of this, you know, when we talk 73 professional educators or 55 service personnel, or 5 per 1,000 student support personnel, you can actually look at the numbers fairly easily for Harrison County Schools with that round number-ish of 1,100 students, because that equates to 80 professional educators, the funding for 80 professional educators lost, the funding for about 60 service personnel lost, and the funding for about, you know, 5 or so student support personnel lost. So you can, I mean, those are real numbers that ultimately tie to those enrollment declines. So again, we don't really like to see that across the county, but ultimately that's what the data shows. If you would pull up the next PDF for me, please. Maybe zoom in a good bit on, there we go. If you will go to, so this is what we refer to as our staffing pages. As I mentioned earlier, we send these out every November to every county just so they can see where they stand. We summarize enrollment on page 1 of these pages. So you can see there the level of state-funded enrollment, including the 274 public charter school students who physically reside in Harrison County Schools. The total enrollment for the funding is about 9,174. We'll call it 9,175, but again, 274 of those students are public charter school students in which you're not receiving funding for. Next page, please. So then, again, these next few pages kind of then tie those enrollment numbers into staffing funding levels, similar to just the conversation I went through, but this is the raw data behind the level of positions that are funded for each county, and specifically Harrison County numbers, obviously, since we're here talking about that today. We can see here that after charter school students are backed out of the formula, right now, Harrison County is employing about 164 positions over formula as we head into 27, considering no actions taken for professional educators. And if you will go to the service personnel number, sorry, I should have just memorized them, but I wanted everybody to kind of see the data too as we go through the conversation. On the service personnel side, we're just shy of 100 positions over formula for service personnel. And then if you will go to maybe 3 more pages down, we'll look at the student support personnel numbers as well. 1 more for me. Yes, so then student support personnel. Essentially employing right around formula for student support personnel. Again, that doesn't take into any consideration of contracted services potentially that you may have for any positions that may fall under that, but I don't know for a fact that there would be any, but you're right around formula as it pertains to the staffing numbers for student support personnel. So again, 164-ish professional educators and about 100 service personnel on the service personnel side of things. All right, now if you will, the Excel spreadsheet, and then I'll wrap up. So again, we're going to put raw dollars behind some of these numbers that we just spoke to about these levels over formula. If you will just scroll to the top of this to start. All right, so again, considering no action taken as we leave this school year heading into the next school year, we're going to sit around 165 professional educators over formula. It's going to cost us about $13.6 million in Harrison County Schools. Service personnel being about 100, it's going to cost about $5.2 million. Then these locally funded positions, as I spoke about, being right around 30. It was about 28 on the professional, 2 on the service side of things. It's another $2.5 million of the local funds beyond what you're receiving from the funding formula. As it pertains to extended professional contracts, the total days of those extended contracts equates to about 22.52 positions. Hopefully that makes sense, but essentially about 22.52 FTE worth of extended day contracts equates to about $1.4 million of local funds that have to be put towards that. And then ultimately the local county supplement that's being provided, including these director supplements and superintendent supplement and so forth that exist, equate to about $6.9 million in costs to the county. So just shy of $30 million in total costs, and these are all estimates because we're using averages here, so these are not exact numbers. I don't want anybody to think that they are, but this is just trying to give a high-level estimate to the county to see where you stand in terms of potential costs of the county moving forward. If you will scroll down, so the excess levy, we did have to use prior year excess levy figures here as it pertains to the level within the excess levy that could be put towards personnel costs. This number is high. It's not a conservative estimate, and I apologize for that, but we don't have a better way of doing it right now. We just have to look at the excess levy call, see what numbers are identified in the call for personnel specifically. It's about $17.5 million. However, within that, there's dental and vision plans. There's all sorts of items like that that wouldn't be able to just pay for an individual's salary. So just keep that in mind when looking at this high-level estimate. Again, I want to make sure that's very clear. Finally, we talked about that 15% local share retention that the county has available to you here. Again, we talked about that $31-ish million number, which is the regular levies to be levied and collected for next year. 15% of that is like $16.5 million. So that is, if you took all $6.5 million and put it towards your workforce, add it to the personnel costs identified in the excess levy, you're looking at potentially $24 million. That number is high, I'll tell you right now. But again, we're trying to do our best here to just provide a high-level picture for the board to see where things stand. I would say right now, at the very least, you're looking at potentially $6 million worth of shortfall available to you, which means that you just see a direct reduction of that fund balance that we have spent some time talking about this afternoon. So that $23 million, I would anticipate coming down, if not already in fiscal year in 26, pretty significantly, assuming no action taken. I would say another $6 million at least for FY27, a dent into that $23 million. Again, just high-level estimate. I don't want to say something, but ultimately, that's the picture that we see in the data right now at the Department of Education. So I wanted to just provide that to you this afternoon. If you have any questions on any of the data, please let me know right now.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I think that this is sobering. Any questions?
Yeah, I do. Do we still have 261-day contracts in the county?
Most are
Thought we
250.
eliminated most of them.
250 and we have 220s. These are 240s.
Yeah.
We do have 250s.
So again, that's without doing anything.
Correct. That's exactly right. Yeah, that wouldn't consider any
Like
attrition.
the transfers we're doing now and the attrition.
Or any retirements or anything like that. Those are not considered in those numbers again, which, that data is not available to us currently. So trying to provide an estimate without considering those. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me this afternoon.
Thanks for coming. All right. Next, we have on our agenda Delegate Laura Kimble, and there she is. She has something to present to the schools. Jill, would you like to come forward as well?
Hi, everybody. It's also, I'd just like to say hi to all the people over there, all the teachers and staff wearing red. I didn't plan on it, but I'm also wearing red in solidarity with you all. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me. I am here to deliver these posters that are framed. It's pursuant to Senate Bill 280, which was passed in 2025. The lead sponsor is Senator Mike Azinger, and he was very busy. These posters were donated by Patriot Mobile to the entire state, and it is so that all of the schools in Harrison County can have the "In God We Trust," the national motto in the schools, and to recognize the history and the tradition and the religion, the religious aspect as well. And so I just wanted to bring these here. I was entrusted to do that, and I contacted, we received those posters. They were not framed, and so I contacted my friend and constituent, Tom and Jill Steele, and they actually donated the frames so that they would be nicely kept for all of the schools. So just wanted to say thank you for having me. I'm happy that I made this very informative meeting, and please stay in touch with me.
We just want to say thank you to Delegate Kimble. This has been a work in progress, and the schools, we just made little ones and just to meet the letter of the law, so these will be great to take the place of those 42. So thank you. And thank you to the Steels for providing the frames for the schools. Happy to do it. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Yeah. All right.
To make you all look better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. This brings us down to the healthy Grandfamilies. Do we have?
She changed.
Okay, reschedule that.
Yeah, she has a reschedule.
Then we have our last presentation, Richard Iaquinta.
I want to thank the board for letting me give you a couple ideas about Liberty Middle School and the situation and what we're going through. I thought it was unique. I heard this same discussion in 1969 with the board. There's 8 counties that have been taken over. I look for more of them. And one of the reasons is they want you to be fiscally responsible and they don't pay for a treasurer. That's a good idea. And a lot of times, especially with the special needs the teachers and everything, they keep increasing except for the finances for it. And they asked me if I wanted to be on the education committee when I was in Charleston. And I said no. And they asked me why. And I said, if you were 48th or 49th or 50th for 50 years, would you want to be on the education committee? They kind of got upset about that. But in reality, I said I'd like to get on the finance committee to get more money for teachers, aides, all these things that the federal, state, and the local. And I think that's a reason that we're going to have more counties in this position exactly the way it was when I was hired in '68. And the reason that I originally told Frank and some of the other board members, they combined two schools. They combined Washington Irving Middle and Mountaineer Middle. I haven't heard one thing about any kind of uniforms, but after listening to this, I won't be here for quite a while. I haven't heard anything about uniforms, but the thing that I did talk to our administration about was we had a building, Mr. Fisher, Jimbo Fisher, dedicated. It's been locked up. We can't get in. They changed the locks on it. And it was for all the athletes, the cheerleaders, anybody, the basketball, girls, boys, all that. It was for them to utilize. And right now, the county's using it for a storage facility. And I asked my principal, I said, we had 3 garages over at Liberty High School. They're empty, but our weight room is full. And it was indicated to me that we have some valuable equipment. The equipment that's most valuable are the refrigerators and the stoves and a couple printers and welding equipment. And I thought to myself, in the transition, going from WI over to Mountaineer Middle, why wouldn't they put them in the garage at Liberty so that when they build this new addition, it would be there instead of taking the space that all the athletes at Liberty Middle School could have utilized. And after I had talked to some people at the board, I realized that if we could just get half of the building, well, that was the suggestion that got the locks changed. So I thought about this before I even mentioned it to any of the other coaches. And Coach Meir and our other coaches, Randy Gorby and Coach Hastings, we are probably the oldest coaching staff in the state of West Virginia. And I kind of like that. But the point that I'm trying to make is everything that we've tried to do is to combine 2 schools so there wouldn't be any problems. Well, after the board honored us, which I was really pleased with, after they honored us, we approached them about having a banquet. We had already had 9 banquets, and the coaches and the parents, every Wednesday or Thursday that we played, fed them, took care of them, and we thought we were going to have a banquet. Never happened. And so there's 2 or 3 things that I want you to remember. We've been trying since August to get our weight facility. And I've had a couple of my friends and business people that said that they would help finance probably the same thing that Jimbo Fisher did. which was to have a great facility. And I didn't really care whether it was middle school or high school. That was a really wonderful gesture to get us a facility that we could use. We've never been able to use it. And I thought, the middle school students that we're coaching are at a disadvantage, and I just feel like the board could do something if it was possible to move that equipment out. And like I said, there's a lot of people in our community, especially when we combined it, were willing to help us. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm confused. Where is the equipment located? Is it in a building on the campus of Liberty Middle?
It's 22 feet, it's 22 feet away from Liberty Middle School.
Okay, and why can you not use it if the equipment's still in there?
They moved heavy welding equipment, chairs, tables, and I asked Mr. Rogers at the beginning of the year, well, is there any way that we can move them to the garage across the street or the little alleyway that they park in, if we could use it to park or put that stuff? But I don't know whether they think that it's going to be a classroom, which is a garage. It was fact it was a garage that they used for the welding.
So, why is this so hard to figure out?
Yeah, that's what can we not move that stuff in the garage so the kids can use the weightlifting? Well, you would have the coaches that would supervise them. You don't need an athletic trainer to supervise them.
Practice?
Weightlifting? So they use the weightlifting?
For practice?
No.
I thought it was games you had to have.
Usually at a game, we'll have an athletic trainer. Middle school's never, I mean, unless you're fortunate to have an athletic trainer, but they're having a hard time getting them at the high school, let alone at the middle school. That's the reason we hire emergency personnel to our games, because it's a hard time getting a young person to spend a couple hours. But like I said, all the sports utilize your weight room or your conditioning room. That's another thing. We don't really use the weights per se. I mean, we use them in a couple of the drills, but we're more interested in the flexibility and the stretching and the spreading. If I were to call it, I would say conditioning versus weights. And we do lift some weights, but that's the reason when you have 4 older coaches like we are, before they ever thought about the training that you now get, we couldn't afford an athletic or a sports athletic trainer for the sports because they're so varied. That's number one. And then number two, WVU has the facilities to do the kind of training. And I don't know what the terminology is, sports,
conditioning maybe?
no, but they have, it's like it's similar to that, but they have a special class in school that you can go to and get a degree, and most of the high schools have somebody come in for a period of time.
Mr. Coxey, would you be willing to find a place to put the excess equipment so they can use that facility?
I'm sure we can find it.
Because it's going to be a while before they're
Yeah.
going to be needed at Robert C. Byrd.
Yeah, you'll have to probably rent something.
There's no place at Byrd?
I think No, that was part of the issue.
What about the
They took
basement
some of the
leaking?
equipment.
Yeah.
There's three garages that they were used by the industrial arts department. There's three of them. And one of them, maybe not even the whole group, would be enough to handle the equipment. But like I said, a lot of the equipment is not, it's not the ranges and the stoves and that type of thing.
Was there any reason why we couldn't send somebody out there to evaluate and see if there's room in the buildings that are existing?
You gotta understand, when that consolidation was happening, we opened those schools, we had like 2 weeks to get classrooms set up, and so they did move the stuff out of the shop over there because Bird could not take it. Bird had stuff on their stage, they had stuff, that is now being sorted out. Like they've just now, that was a lot of stuff being moved in a matter of 2 months.
Well, now,
And so that shop was right there adjacent to that.
well, now we've got a
Yeah.
breather, and
Yeah.
it's worth looking into for
So there was a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of students that we could be helping.
Yes, it is. Like I said, when you have a conditioning program, you take the track students that are injured, you take anybody that has the permission slip to get on the bus to get to Bird. But we didn't really think that we were going to have a bus, to be honest. We thought we were going to have a weight room or a conditioning room that we could do all this.
This would be cheaper in the long run. You're
Did
not
we ask
transporting
Mr.
it.
Rogers when that building was empty, what his plan was for that?
I think his initial plan was that it would be an additional HCS facility in the day.
Because we are packed.
They are packed, and that it can also become the wrestling room.
So it needs cleared out.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at, I don't know what the equipment's still in there. I know Mr. Post come over and picked up a lot of it, correct? For Bird?
He picked up some of the weight equipment.
Yeah.
All the weight equipment, when we got to the facility, was gone. It went to Bird. And a lot of the machines were designed more for a spa than they were for weightlifting. That's number one. And number two, we felt like that was one asset that we had, but not only were all the weights gone, all the medical equipment, all the gauze and first aid equipment, all that was gone too. So we were really kind of left in a lurch. Now, we brought some of that stuff ourselves from WI, but to go into a facility and have all of it taken over there. In fact, they have so much material, and we were working out at Bird, they have so much, they don't have the capacity to put it on the holders in the weight facilities. There's no squat bars. They've all been broken down or in the girls' restroom. So not only did it mess ours up, it messed theirs up too, because they have double the equipment that they had a year ago.
He just was coming to get what he could use over there, so I don't know anything about it.
I think it worked. I mean, I don't see why, I mean, was it, we used to have a person here that said, say yes when you can and no when it's illegal, immoral, or unethical. I think this might be one of those scenarios where we should say yes and find a way to help. So,
It makes sense, the multiple
Involve
reasons.
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
His purpose of
I agree, it's his, it's his.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
then go over and evaluate what needs to be done with Jenny.
See if we can find a solution.
Hey, thank you for your time, and also the 37 football players that came out this year, thank you. And like I said, we had a good group of kids, and I check on their grades about every 2 weeks. And we make sure that they represented our school. And we're going to stay with them. And that was another thing that we felt like that when we came over there, we told them we were going to try to have a weight program just like we had at Washington Urban. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This brings us to our delegations. The order of delegations, first we have Erica Reed, South Harrison High School. So I will give you the Cliff Notes version. You get 5 minutes. We don't interact back and forth, and you can speak on any topic that you want.
Okay. My name is Erica Reed, and I am part of a group of parents from South Harrison High School who have come today to talk to you about our school and the impact proposed changes will have on our school, our kids, and their education. I'm speaker one of two here today. First, we'd like to paint an accurate picture of our student population. South Harrison High School is rural. Some of our kids travel over an hour one way on a school bus to attend classes. Enrollment balances around 350 students. 24% of our students have special education needs. Despite these demographics, our kids thrive. Attendance at South Harrison High School is 95.6%. The attendance rate is #1 among traditional high schools in Harrison County and top 3 of all schools in Harrison County. Our school rankings have greatly improved over the last year or two. On School Digger, we are ranked 2nd in Harrison County and 29th out of 111 high schools. Our SAT and PSAT test scores have increased dramatically over the past couple of years, exceeding state categories at all grade levels. South Harrison offers all major sports: football, cheerleading, cross country, track, volleyball, swim, girls and boys basketball, baseball, softball, and band. Many of our kids do sports in every season, and some do multiple sports within the same season. In recent years, our athletic programs have achieved the level of performing at state competitions, including cross country, volleyball, swim, and track. In the absence of a lot of clubs and extracurricular activities, our kids gravitate towards our sports. You don't hear from the parents of South Harrison very often. We know we're a small school and our kids can't have everything that the larger schools have, yet we are relatively self-sufficient. When we see a need at our school, we all pitch in and make it happen for our kids. We have the best teachers, parents, and families in the county. We as parents understand the challenges of balancing budgets and schedules, but we are concerned about changes that have and will negatively impact our kids. We are approaching a tipping point where our kids will not be receiving the education that they deserve. We understand that staffing ratios are calculated based on enrollment. We know that enrollment is down, but we challenge the board to look at why enrollment is down. The obvious answer is the Hope Scholarship and the shift from public education to private and online schools. There is another component affecting change at South Harrison High School, and that is that many families pull their kids out of public school prior to high school because our high school is already lacking on electives, higher level class offerings, clubs, and extracurricular activities. We don't have clubs like FBLA, Key Club, Math Honorary, Science Honorary, and clubs that coincide hand in hand with certain courses. This hurts our kids when applying for scholarships that they deserve and are eligible for. We need growth at South Harrison. How do we get families to choose South Harrison schools? The answer is simple. We don't cut. We can't afford to cut. We have nothing left to cut from our kids. You keep cutting from our kids and they are now at the point where they are not receiving a fair and equitable education. The number of staffing positions should be based on the needs of the school and the students. Prior to eliminating a position, there should be a thorough assessment of the schedule to determine if this elimination is manageable. Our schedule is already very restrictive, and we share teachers with the middle school as well. We have already taken cuts and our programs have suffered. Last fall, we lost a .5 science position. This was a sudden change that resulted in the elimination of honors biology. Over 80 schedule changes had to occur several days before school due to this cut. Also last fall, we lost an FFA teacher who worked between the middle school and high school to fuel our nationally recognized FFA program. Last year, there were 11 South Harrison alumni who received their national FFA degrees. That is quite an accomplishment. Unfortunately, this trend will not continue because with fewer classes offered, the kids will not be able to complete the requirements prior to graduation. Many of these are started in middle school, which we no longer have available. So again, I ask, before you cut, please consider what I've presented here and consider the effects that it will have on our children and our community at South Harrison High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Paul.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Paul, and I'm presenting part 2 of our concerns from South Harrison. My background is industrial engineering with a master's in business. I'm a product of public education. I work in healthcare, and I relate it this way. In order to grow, you seek out the best talent there is. I recruit specialists, surgeons, and highly skilled providers. These doctors treat patients, patients fill hospitals. Without doctors, there's no hospitals. Without teachers, there's no school. Next year, the following changes are proposed. Distance learning will be cut, which will eliminate Italian, French, driver's ed, and creative writing. Without distance learning, our schedule becomes even more restrictive. For example, the entire school will have to take Spanish, our only foreign language, in 3rd or 4th block because we already share this teacher with the middle school. And I've heard that we may be unable to find a certified Spanish teacher to even fill the open position. How will our kids be able to graduate without a foreign language? Distance learning, I'm sorry, I'm getting emotional, sorry. Distance learning is mission critical to South Harrison High School. We can't cut distance learning. If anything, we should be adding curriculum to distance learning. We have smart, capable kids who would benefit from additional AP classes and other electives. There will be reductions in history, special education, and possibly the food labs with the sudden death of Mr. Garcia. Our fear is that when Mr. Garcia's position is posted, the requirements will be too high to fill, and the funding for that program will eventually be transferred to Byrd. This would be a huge loss to our school and would further restrict our schedule. The athletic director position is being eliminated. The AD position is vital for South Harrison. In larger schools, it does make sense to shift those responsibilities among the assistant principals, but South Harrison is the only traditional high school in the county to have only one assistant principal. As mentioned, we have a thriving athletic program. For a nominal cost, the AD position should not be eliminated. Or perhaps the AD duties could be transitioned to an assistant principal at a larger school that has more than 2 assistant principals. If your end game is to squeeze us out, please can just be transparent and say it so that we can all start making alternate arrangements. If you're banking on increased enrollment at Byrd, you may want to reconsider. Yes, we only have 350 students, but very few of those will transfer to Byrd. It's honestly closer for our kids to transfer to Doddridge and Lewis counties where the demographic is more similar to our rural South Harrison community. I'm sure those neighboring counties would welcome us with open arms. And when it's time to vote for county levies in Harrison County where we pay our taxes, there will be no reason for us to vote yes. So now we know some of the issues, here are our proposed solutions. We need an objective, non-biased assessment of county operations. Find your efficiencies and redundant systems and processes. Budgets have to be met and cuts should be made from the top down. The teachers and paraprofessionals should be the last on the chopping block. If distance learning is not needed at every school, then just cut it from those schools. Do not make a blanket cut to distance learning. It's mission critical for South Harrison High School. In order to provide a fair and equitable education to every student in Harrison County, even the playing field, redistricting should have been addressed years ago. The current school districts don't make sense. Spread the kids out evenly and offer the same schedule and curriculum to all 4 schools. There's no need for million-dollar expansions when redistricting solves your enrollment issues and budgetary constraints. Before other teachers are cut, please consider that the middle school could also benefit from more advanced classes, especially in math and science. Perhaps these teachers could extend additional support to our middle school. Core subject teachers should be used to advance core subject matter and not be pulled to fill gaps in other non-core subjects. Filling gaps using duly certified teachers should be handled fairly without bias. And finally, if you're planning to close our school, then at least let us retain what we have until you close our doors. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. We have Mr. Kimble. He has been given one to 3 time slots, so he can speak for 20 minutes.
I'm not going to speak 20 minutes.
You're welcome to.
Gonna need one of those.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brent Kimble, and I'm a social studies teacher and the faculty senate president of Bridgeport High School. As a 20-year veteran of this profession and someone that chose to stay here in West Virginia to hopefully make a difference, we have become all too familiar with the issues that plague education here in Harrison County and across all of West Virginia. From declining enrollments to an antiquated school aid formula, school consolidations, and counties being taken over by the state, I do not envy the decisions that are fast approaching this Board of Education. I also acknowledge that Harrison County Board of Education, along with many other counties across the state, have been in these situations due to a total lack of action by the state. Another legislative session has come and gone, and public education is still not priority. So many problems that are going on are going to require some very tough decisions. It is acknowledging all of that we ask the county and the Board of Education to be cognizant that some of the ideas that are being discussed would cause irreparable damage to the quality of education that we as a system provide to the students of Harrison County. This is the reason why I'm here tonight, to make sure that in all these decisions, we keep our students and their educational opportunities the primary focus. In education, at least for the last 20 years, we are constantly driven by numbers, graduation rates, test scores, and attendance rates. Unfortunately, some of the ideas that were discussed at the March 3rd meeting would have truly devastating impacts on these numbers that we live by. One specific idea that was discussed at the last board meeting and made its way on the agenda tonight was the prospects of changing the high school scheduling model to a 7-period day for all high schools. Bridgeport High School has been a 4x4 with alternating block schedule school for decades, and our academic successes have been recognized by this board and the state of West Virginia on numerous occasions. While I can't speak for my fellow faculty senate presidents, I imagine that they believe that aspects of what they do at South Harrison High School, at Robert C. Byrd High School, and at Lincoln High School are beneficial to their students. So I don't feel that a one-size-fits-all approach works. Unlike middle school or elementary school, high school is driven by credits and the need for all students to stay on track for graduation. While standards and assessments change at all grade levels, it is the high school level that always sees the greatest changes in these requirements set forth by the West Virginia Department of Education Policy 2510 and Harrison County Policy 5000. Currently, you have to have 22 credits to graduate. Harrison County goes above and beyond that with our current graduation requirement at 26. Starting with the current sophomores, the state minimum increases to 23 with the incorporation of the personal finance credit. In June of last year, this board increased our graduation requirement to 27. Starting with next year's freshman class, the minimum will increase to 24 with the incorporation of the computer programming and coding class that will be required. And I expect, in keeping with precedents, the county will increase again to 28 credits. A switch to a 7-period day would only allow our students to get a total of 28 credits, as opposed to the 32 credits they have the opportunity to for now. It leads us to some very pressing questions. Will the county lower academic standards and expectations and water down the quality of education that makes Harrison County schools desirable? My answer to that question, I sincerely hope not. Another question that is emerging is, what are the potential long-term implications of this change? The first one is a decrease in graduation rate. With only 28 credits, students would eliminate the safety net that is built in for them to be able to graduate on time. Any student that struggles in required subjects would have fewer opportunities to get caught up, or more importantly, get ahead, which would lead to increased expenses with summer school, credit recoupment, or ultimately an increase in the number of students that seek alternative education opportunities, which would have adverse effects on our graduation rate and our score on the West Virginia Department of Education balanced scorecard. Our block schedule allows for students to have opportunities to recover and recoup credit the very next semester, but it also allows students more opportunities to explore pathways and future career options on top of meeting all graduation requirements as set by the state and the county. Students at BHS have the opportunity to be a completer in numerous CTE areas, including agriculture, business, aerospace engineering, STEM, and soon journalism. Students at BHS have the opportunity to take numerous AP and dual credit classes that prepare them for higher education world that many of them are entering in. Students at BHS have the opportunity to go to United Technical Center to learn a trade and earn certifications that will make them work ready. Students at BHS have the opportunity to work with our special education teachers in skills classes that provide them essential skills to be successful, not only in their core classes at BHS, but also skills that they will thrive in the ever-changing world. And yet, there are many kids at BHS and across Harrison County that do not find themselves in only one of these groups, but rather all of these groups. Who among us want to tell the student that is taking the LPN course at UTC that they can't go to college because they haven't completed the requirements to get into the school of their choice? Who want to tell the student that wants to be a completer of both agriculture and business CTE clusters so they can run a successful agricultural business, they can't because they don't have enough credits? Who among us want to tell the college-bound student they can't take their AP or dual credit classes because they still have required classes set forth by state and county policy? Who among us want to tell the families of our special needs students that we can't provide them the accommodations that we as professionals feel they need to be successful because it doesn't fit into their schedule? I know I sure don't want to be in that position. The importance of test and assessment scores is nothing new to school systems in West Virginia. Whether it was the days of CTBS, the era of academic progress, the emergence of West Virginia's Smarter Balance Assessment, or today's emphasis of the SAT, Advanced Placement Test, and Seals of Biliteracy, just to name a few, drive school success across this country. Our schedule provides us opportunities to ensure all students can be successful when it comes to testing. Due to the block schedule and the abilities to get whole credits in one semester as opposed to a year, students are able to double up in the areas of interest. Most BHS students double up in math their freshman or sophomore year, or in some cases both. I firmly believe that this is a huge reason why our math scores constantly rank among the best in the state. Due to the sequential nature of math, you can't do that effectively in a period schedule. Our block system allows for offer SAT and PSAT prep opportunities for all students in all grades. On our current system, all students at BHS have 2 days a week of SAT or PSAT prep during the lunch homeroom window. All juniors are given personalized time with an English and math teacher to help prepare them for the SAT during this time. It's because of these opportunities that Bridgeport High School has the highest SAT scores in reading, math, and science in the state. I believe there is an old saying that is applicable here. If it's not broke, don't fix it. On the AP front, BHS offers 15 advanced placement courses. Last year, Bridgeport had 240 students take at least one AP exam, with 78% of them scoring a 3 or higher. Over half of the class of 2025 had taken at least one AP course, while 9% of the class had taken 5 or more AP courses. As a result of this work, BHS was recognized as a Silver AP Honor Roll school by the College Board. This year, we have 391 exams being taken by 222 students and hope to continue to build off our previous AP success. The College Board indicates that a huge contributing factor to AP success is quality instructional minutes. Our current schedule provides us more minutes than any period schedule could provide, and we'll have more on that in a moment. Our foreign language program at BHS is one of the best in the state. We are one of the few schools in the state that offer at least 2 foreign language course offerings. We have students that take up to Spanish 5 and French 6 every year who plan to major or minor in foreign language. They also enter the college or enter a field that requires an international language skill set, or just because of their love of language. Like most subjects, language is also assessed with the Seals of Biliteracy program, which involve taking the stamp assessments of writing, speaking, listening, and reading, along with ascertaining a certain score on the SAT or ACT. We have 37 members of the class of 2026 that have received their West Virginia Seal of Biliteracy in Spanish and French. 19 of those students have received their Global Seal of Biliteracy. We currently have an additional 20 students who are waiting on their SAT or ACT scores to see if they have qualified. In the next few weeks, an additional 47 students will be taking the stamp test. By changing our schedule, our foreign language programs would be gutted due to the inability to fit these credits into the students' plans, and would see a dramatic decrease in the seal of biliteracy proficiency. It has been stated numerous times by this Board of Education that we should look at what Bridgeport does and try to promote our best practices across the county. We do not feel that making us change a schedule that has worked for us for years fulfills that narrative. But let's make it even simpler than that. I believe we can all agree that quality instructional time with a certified teacher is usually the best predictor of desired testing and learning outcomes. In a standard 7-period day with 49-minute classes, it equals to 343 minutes of instruction. In our current schedule, 4-block day with 90-minute classes, it equals 360 minutes of instruction. That is an extra 17 minutes of instruction a day. Over the course of a year, that is an extra 3,060 minutes or 51 hours of instruction. I know people that I'm here tonight firmly believe that less instructional opportunities and time could result in lower test scores and have an adverse impact on the expectations and rigor of the education we provide. And that is not something we can stand for. Lastly, we need to look at attendance rates. There are literally hundreds of theories out about the impacts on learning outcomes, and I'm familiar with a lot of them. In the 6 years that I have been in county, we have seen a number of these theories put to the test in regards to our ever-changing attendance policy. One thing that is undisputable is that all kids have a motivating factor in why they come to school. It could be the expectations of their parents or guardians. It could be because they see it as a vehicle to the life they want for themselves. It could be socialization with their friends or peers. But it also could be that one class that has provided them an opportunity to find their niche. Unfortunately, I'm not talking about reading, writing, or arithmetic. It could be the band or choir. It could be theater or orchestra. It could be animal productions or accounting. It could be psychology or sociology. It could be aerospace engineering or a foreign language. Whatever it is, as educators, it is our jobs to figure out what motivates them and provide them in the opportunities to explore these worlds. I say all of that for this reason. It was mentioned in the last meeting that by changing the schedule, the county could potentially cut 10 to 20% of the high school staffs. At Bridgeport, that cut would be between 6 and 12 positions. What classes do you think will be lost in the mix? It isn't reading, writing, or the arithmetic. It's our arts programs, it's our AP classes, it's our foreign language courses, it's our teaching programs. In a lot of cases, it's the classes that serve as the motivating factors for our students. If all of a sudden we are operating in a world where we don't provide our students with the classes that motivate them to get up every day, will they get up and come to school? I can speak from experience on that. The answer to that question is no. In closing, I'm going to ask all members of the Bridgeport High School faculty and staff to stand. We acknowledge that there are some tough decisions ahead, and we do not envy the position that you as the board are in. We feel that some of the things discussed at the last meeting and again tonight are more targeted at high school and middle school levels rather than the county as a whole. In a county with 19 schools, we can't cut our way out of these situations by only looking at 8 of these schools. In reality, it requires a serious look at the county system as a whole. We humbly ask the board to let each school decide what schedule works best for the students, the families, and the communities they serve. As faculty senate president, I believe one of my roles is to keep our staff apprised of the happenings of the board, and as a result, much to the chagrin of my wife, I watch every single meeting. At the conclusion of each meeting, I genuinely appreciate the comments of Board Member Tucker, who thanks all those who attend, watch, and actively participate. We, the faculty of Bridgeport High School, are here tonight. We are watching, and we are wanting to actively work with the board on the issues at hand to ensure the highest quality of education for all students in Harrison County. Thank you for your time.
5.5 minutes left to share with you. All right, thank you, everyone. This brings us down to board member comments. Mr. Tucker?
Full house, great deal. Thank you all for being here, and for the folks that have watched. It's important to be here. It's important to watch, as we've said before, to learn what's going on, and to come and voice what your beliefs are. And speak out, talk, you need that. And for the presentations of others tonight, certainly appreciate that, everyone that's been here. And yes, we do have other folks on this side that work for the board also. I recognize Debbie from last night, the meeting we were at, so we do have other employees here also. So thank you folks for being here too.
Thank you. Mr. Hogue, do you have anything you'd like to say?
These problems are overnight, and they're not going to be fixed overnight. And, you know, it's everybody working together along with the, you know, us reaching out to our people in Charleston to go back and work and see if they can do something to make things better for each and every county and every school in the state of West Virginia. So, like I said, it didn't happen overnight, not going to be fixed overnight. It's just going to take everybody working together to try and get us the best possible solution. And that falls on everybody. The parents, the kids, the legislature, the teachers, and our, you know, the Board of Education, just working together. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Santilli?
Yeah, I have a couple comments. The bulk of my career was spent at South Harrison, and that's where I became a teacher, and then I finished my career at Bridgeport, so it's pretty emotional for me to hear from both of you. My daughter is a business owner, runs her own catering meal prep business. My son graduated with a doctorate in pharmacy from South Harrison. And it is disheartening to me to see that they are not having those high-level math, science, and world language credits, not only to prepare them, but it ends up saving money because they don't have to take beginner courses. They can jump ahead, especially if they have the seal of biliteracy or the global seal, as they do at Bridgeport and as they have at South Harrison too. I was in the very beginning of block scheduling. I did research on it. I taught it for years. You're absolutely right, everything you said, Mr. Kimble.
Ms. Smith?
Brett, you made me proud and almost stood up. I do want to say that what people need to remember is that public school education is a choice, and it is the best choice. So I want everyone to keep that in mind when they're talking about school choice. Okay, so thank you, Brett, and I support block scheduling 100%.
All right. Yeah, I echo Mr. Tucker. Thank you all for coming. It's been a very nice meeting, very engaging meeting, very informative meeting. I'm glad that everybody is so invested, and I 100% agree with the rest of the board members. We want to work together instead of apart to be able to find solutions. That's all I have to say. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, that was slack.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?